Hey, Alan.
Hello.
Hello,
How's it
hello.
going?
Good. How you doing?
I'm okay. Hello, confused as well as you, apparently.
I know that change threw me off.
Yeah, exactly. It's that extra week there. It's like, what the hell?
Yeah, I thought we
I
were.
was like, yeah, the alert popped up, and I'm like, hey. I'm like, oh yeah, hold on, that was just record the thing. Yeah. So
Yeah, I thought we were gonna record,
yeah, onboard
do the
thing.
onboarding
Yeah.
tomorrow, and then that we were gonna meet to record next
Right,
week.
exactly.
But
I mean, we can
yeah,
do that if you prefer. I don't mind. Or we
no,
can
no,
do
no.
a quickie and then.
No, that's fine. That's fine. We can do this.
Actually, it
Uh,
might be worth also recording the onboarding tomorrow as well, just as a reference point for you. Like it's
sure.
because I saw Software Social also did a customer interview kind of thing. So they basically posted like the raw audio of a customer interview, and it was kind of interesting hearing that as a like a bonus kind of content kind of thing. So,
Cool. Yeah,
so
yeah. That sounds good. Let's do it. So, did you notice it's already recording?
oh, it is. Oh, nice
Yeah.
one. Cool. Ah, sneaky. I didn't. I was like, "Oh, should I start recording? Hold on a minute." Cool.
Yeah, yeah. So I got that feature going where it's auto starts recording automatically
Excellent.
locally as soon as you log in.
Cool.
Yeah, but perhaps I need to make it more obvious so that the person knows that they're being recorded because you
Yeah,
didn't
I
know.
didn't notice.
So even though it says at the top, but it's not, I guess it's not obvious enough.
Maybe some like kind of notification thing that just kind of pops up and just says, yeah, maybe some kind of banner that just says recording has
Yeah,
been automatically
recording in
started.
local
Yeah,
recording in
progress.
progress or something like that.
Yeah,
Okay.
just like a
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nice one.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I'll do that. So, have you been?
Good. It's like I know it's weird because like yeah, as we talked last week, right? But I don't know where the hell does the time go? No,
It
things are good.
is.
Things are good. I think also we were away for the weekend, so we were at mother-in-law's for the weekend. So I kind of
Oh,
like
okay.
I'd lost 2 days of hiking.
Yeah.
You know how it
Yeah.
goes. And I'm kind of like, what did I do? I don't know. It's a bad habit to kind of do this development at the weekends, but it's sometimes, unfortunately, the only time you can get stuff done when you're juggling full-time stuff during the week and things, and then like the kid often disappears for the like weekend days to go out and play with his friends. So it's like, oh, I've got like 2 hours to squeeze in an extra bit of bonus work. So
Exactly.
it's a bad
That's when you
habit,
get it.
but
Get some time, some solid block of hours
right.
to work on things.
Exactly, and I don't know about you, but I'm really bad. I kind of it's evenings. I find it much easier to get into the zone than daytime. So I have this terrible habit of like, oh, it's 10 o'clock. I'll just do an hour before bed, like 1 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, but I've just got to finish these things off. Like I can't do that during the day. It's like my trying to get like a continuous block of just like I can do
Yeah.
this, and then you get
Yeah.
distracted. But evenings are so easy to get focused. It's yeah.
Yeah. I've done that so many times. Yeah.
I know.
Totally.
And then, unfortunately, my son has to leave for school like at 7:30 ish. So yeah, that doesn't. It's not compatible, unfortunately.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But it's a habit and it happens. But yeah, probably shouldn't.
I've done that so many times. It's tough. Yeah. I've brought my laptop to bed sometimes just to, okay, I'm just going to do a little bit just before I go to bed. And
Yeah,
then, yeah, sure enough, 1 o'clock rolls around and I'm still at it.
and
And
you're
my
like, but
wife is like,
I've just got to finish this. This is
yeah,
really important. Yeah,
yeah. And my wife wakes up later and then she's like, you're still awake. Yeah.
yeah, bad habit.
Yeah,
Cool.
not good. Not
So
good.
you've been you got anybody else on boarded?
No, no, not
No, no,
yet.
no, not yet.
No,
I'm
I
the next one,
haven't.
right? So I'm the next
You're
next
next.
guinea
Yep.
pig.
Yeah. You're next.
Cool.
So no, I haven't onboarded anybody else, but I've been busy making changes, applying changes based on that feedback. You might notice it looks a little bit different, not by much, but the screens are separated now. There's a little bit
Yep.
of a split.
It
Before they were all together.
right. No, I was just thinking it looks kind of. It's funny how again I'm not a great designer. I'm not a designer. But
Same here.
when you kind of make small differences and you're like, I think this is better. I'm not sure. And then
Yeah,
you come back to it like a few days later and you accidentally load like the previous version or something. You're like, oh my God, like this is terrible. Like it's amazing
yeah,
how things do improve but you're not actually sure about it at the time. So like,
yeah,
yeah, I kind of changed some of the like the border and the shadow on some of the boxes on my thing. And at the time, I'm like, I can't tell which is better. They look kind of similar, just different.
yeah.
But then, yeah, I hadn't deployed the new version, and I went to the deployed version, production version. I'm like, oh, who's broken the site? It looks terrible. And it's like, oh yeah, I made that change, didn't I? So
Okay,
it's yeah, I
that's
guess that's good.
validation.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
exactly.
validation.
This is the again one of the downside. I don't know if it's downside or bonus of it not being my full time. I'm not concentrating on this all the time, right? You are working on other things most of the time, and then when you come back to it, you're like, well, I'm not sure who made that decision, but like
Yeah,
you can be reasonably objective about the decisions because it's like I don't remember making that decision, so I
yeah,
can be
yeah.
critical of it because I'm not sure it was me.
Yeah, totally. And that goes with code too, not just the visual aspects, but with
Definitely.
code. I've come back to my own code sometimes and then I look at it, I'm like, huh, what was I thinking when I when I coded this?
Yep. No, I mean,
This
absolutely. One of the best refactoring or debugging techniques is to just like walk away.
walk
And
away.
I do this all
Yeah.
the time. And yeah, walking away from it for like, 3 or 4 days at a time and coming back to it and then being like, wow, that was a really bad decision.
Yeah.
You could, like I'd fire that person. That's terrible. But yeah, you can be pretty
Mm,
objective about it when yeah, you can distance yourself from your code.
yeah. And there you go, start refactoring again
Yeah,
and
especially for me because I'm developing .plan in Elixir and Phoenix.
right.
And this is my first Elixir Phoenix production app, which I think I mentioned. It wasn't intentional. I was like, oh, I should try this out, see how I like it. And then I'm like, oh, I've built a thing.
Yeah.
So you just kind of, so I'm very much learning as I go with it in terms of, I'm applying all of the things I've known in developing Rails apps for 10 years,
Right.
but there's a lot of I don't want to say subtle. There's some quite huge differences. I mean, that the concept and the structure and things is very similar, but there's a lot of unique functional programming things in Elixir that I'm just not very practiced at. So there's definitely this constant reevaluating how I've done things, and then it's like, okay, I can refactor this now because I've learned a better technique of doing this. So it's definitely a big learning experience as well. It's yeah, normally if it was just Rails, I wouldn't really think too much about that, but this is definitely a different experience to be learning and building at the same time.
Yeah.
Probably not the most efficient, but
Yeah. No, but that's good. I mean, you're learning and you're learning with a real, real life application that puts a lot of things to the test, things that
right. I
that
mean,
you
there
need.
was a discussion on one of the Slacks I'm in, I think yesterday, like how should I learn a new language? And I think we mentioned this before. I can't learn a language by build what the suggestions were like build a parser or build a
Yeah.
like that has zero, like I'm not going to learn anything. I'm just going to learn syntax and
Yeah.
I might learn some stuff and then forget it the next day because it's completely impractical to me. And so by building a real thing and actually solving problems that I would be solving in a normal process of building an application is the only way that works
Exactly.
for me, right?
Yep. Yep.
So all the
Yeah.
things I'm kind of trying to learn about Elixir and Phoenix are things. It's like, okay, I don't know how to do this, but
Yeah.
I need to make it work. So it's like, okay, applying what I know from Rails and Ruby, but like the concepts are quite different. So it's like there's definitely a whole process that you need to go through. Like, but then it sticks because you've had to go through that, right? It's not
Yeah.
next time that comes up, you're like, I know this.
Yeah.
Whereas yeah, if
Yeah.
I was writing a parser, like, oh,
Yeah.
just gonna go
Yeah.
in one ear and out the other, right?
Yeah. I find myself in a similar situation with the fact that I'm building this app that I've never built anything like it before with audio, video, and recording, and all through the browser, and never built that. I've been a developer for a long time and built a lot of different kinds of systems, but I've never worked on something like this. So it's a lot of firsts for me, and I don't sometimes it's the same thing. I don't know how to do this, so but it has to work. I
Has
have
to
to
work,
figure it
right?
out. So
Yeah. So have you
um,
released a production app that is entirely yours before, or have you only worked on stuff as part of teams that has been released to the public?
mostly just as part of teams.
Hmm.
Yeah, that it's entirely mine. Yeah, some of my side projects, yeah, I've launched,
Okay, right,
before.
right.
Yeah, like 3 or 4 of them
Okay,
before
okay.
FusionCast, but none of them, anywhere close to what FusionCast is. But yeah,
In
you know,
terms of complexity or completeness?
in terms of complexity, because I have launched, let's see, two or three other projects or products that I
Hmm.
worked on that were pretty complete. I mean, I could have iterate more on them and continue making them better, but I did launch them,
Okay.
so they were
Hmm.
pretty complete, at
Yeah.
least good enough for
Hmm.
other people to use. But yeah, not anywhere as near as FusionCast in terms of complexity. Yeah, and yeah, completely different types
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah,
projects.
yeah.
So
Cool. Okay. So this is, yeah, it is a big deal launching this one.
yeah,
It's much more of a step up in terms of, yeah, does this work and does
yeah,
as
yeah,
I said, I think yours is especially, there's a lot of moving parts and it's all got to work perfectly for the
yeah,
product to work at all, right? One
exactly.
piece of that
Yeah.
breaks down, that you don't really have a working product, right?
Yeah, yeah. So far, the biggest challenge I had was when recording wasn't working, and you remember our first recording
Yes.
didn't work very well at all, and that was kind of scary because I was like, it's the core piece of the product, and like, what's the problem? Where's the bug? And we already talked about that in the previous session, how the problem was in multiple places and it
Right.
was logical errors, and I had bugs and stuff that I needed to rework, and it was one of those where, like, it has to work and I have to make it work because it's the core part of the product, and it took me a couple of weeks to figure it out, and it was like, man, it was tough, but yeah, once I figured it out, it
Again,
was a
especially
big
since that's
relief.
the core of everything, right? But I mean,
Yeah.
this is also something that is very much on my mind. Releasing this in, having been written in Elixir and Phoenix, is I'm not used to debugging this in production because
Hmm.
like a Rails app, I know the patterns to expect in terms of what happens to an application when it's got a bunch of users, or they're seeing particular problems. Um,
Yeah.
the biggest unknown for me in this is, like, I don't know how an Elixir app performs in production, and
Hmm.
what the problems mean.
Yeah.
When you get a particular type of problem, it's like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I know, like, Elixir has a lot of tools for going in and kind of debugging a live system, but I've never used them in anger. Again, I've played around with them, but never to solve a live production problem. So that will be an interesting learning curve.
Yeah.
So
Definitely. Do you write tests with your projects?
it depends on the day. I should write more. So
Yeah.
Rails, both Rails and Phoenix have a very strong, like, baked in testing culture and systems. My testing habits are not as good as they should be.
Yeah.
So I tend to these days I write much more higher level integration system tests. Have kind of got out of the habit of writing as many unit tests as I used
Unit
to.
test.
Just,
Yeah.
I find them less and less useful as time goes on, and much more of a headache to maintain. So if I the tests I write now are generally much higher level system tests, integration tests. So, but yeah, that's also one of the problems of developing a thing that you're not sure what it's going to be when you start.
Exactly.
Is It's like, okay, do I write all these tests and then realize I'm building the wrong thing, or do you get further along and then say, okay, this is now a thing, how do I test this? So it's an ongoing challenge with
Yeah,
all of
I
it.
totally get it. I feel the same way. I don't, to be honest, I haven't written any tests for FusionCast, and part of it is that, the fact that it's started as a side project, and as
Hmm.
all my side projects, I don't know if they're gonna go
Right.
anywhere. I don't know, so I don't want to be wasting time writing tests. So don't I don't do that. And another part is with FusionCast specifically, it's a really difficult app to write tests for. I mean,
Again,
I can
you're
write
almost
tests.
right.
I can
Yeah,
write
there's
tests for
individual
certain
things
parts.
in terms of like merging your files and making sure things happen. But yeah, the
Yeah,
end to end. I mean, I guess that's where like integration tests are going to be
yeah,
the main thing for you, because it's
yeah.
like it's got to be an end to end process of actually recording multiple things and making sure they're joined and everything right as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, a lot of parts of an app like this are really difficult to test because of just the nature of it. The video connection and multi-part uploading and all that
Hmm.
stuff. It's kind of hard.
Yeah.
But I see if it gets anywhere at some point, I need to circle back around
Hmm.
and then do some integration testing and
Right.
yeah, higher level. But yeah, I feel the same as you in terms of unit testing because when I'm coding and as I'm coding, I'm testing all the time. I'm
Right.
testing. Yeah, it takes a little longer to manually test, but I want to see this thing work. I
Right.
there's To me there's nothing more obvious and more, what's the word I'm looking for, reassuring, right?
Mm.
To see
Mm.
it actually work and to actually feel it and see it. So as I'm coding, I'm always testing, everything as I go. So I feel the same way about unit testing.
It's yeah, I mean it's they're important, and there's certain things that are worth unit testing, but I've come into many projects that claim to have, amazingly complete test specs, and like we've got like every line of code, like 90 something percent test coverage.
99%
Yeah,
coverage.
exactly. And then you look at the tests, and 90% of the tests are testing the framework. It's like, yeah, okay, well, Rails does that. If you're
Yeah.
stating a thing in your code, so it's like, okay, you're making sure that you've done a thing, but by writing the thing in the first place, you've already done that. So it's well worth testing certain things that you do and making sure that the outputs are expected to be the inputs. But again, that doesn't, just because you have a high test coverage number doesn't necessarily mean that your tests are worthwhile or you're testing the right thing. So again, it's difficult sometimes to understand that while you're writing the code, because you're in that world of like, well, I'm doing this, therefore I need to test that, and then I'm doing this, need to test that. So my very first job out of yeah, third job out of college was I was doing QA stuff. So I was actually doing automated test. It was, the company actually had separate QA departments. So we had this system, like literally code would get thrown over the wall. We'd write automated tests to test it, and then we'd file bug reports. And it seems ridiculous now that there was this wall, not a literal wall, but a virtual wall that code went over. We didn't really speak very often to the developers. It was more of like, well, we've got this thing, how do we test it?
Mhm.
And it seems like crazy that that's how it worked, but that's how it did work. And so I'm reasonably used to trying to figure out what needs to be testing or what the edge cases might be, but so that's not what I see from a lot of tests that a lot of applications that I've come into as a developer. It's like existing products, and it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, this is just taking a lot of time to run your tests. It doesn't actually prove anything.
Right,
So
right.
it's a
Yeah.
it's a topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally.
yes, but I need more is the answer.
Same here. I
But
get it. Yeah, I feel the same way.
it's tricky.
But at some point, I'll come back around, and we'll both come back around
For
and
sure. I mean, I
write
think,
tests.
well, yeah, I mean, we're both in this period where it's okay. We've gone through initial validation of like, yes, this is a useful thing, but there's still a gap between, is this actually a revenue producing product that I want to continue investing in and maintaining and supporting for an ongoing period of time? And it's like, well,
Yeah.
how much do you need to, yeah, but there's a balance there, right? When it's a project like that, it's not, a paid for gig that you have to deliver on spec and to a particular quality. It's like the quality is to your customers, not to a specification, right?
Right. Exactly. Yep.
It's a, it's a tricky one.
Yeah. Yeah. It
So what's new in
is.
your app anyway? What have you done
Uh,
apart from automated
let's
recording?
see what else. Oh, by the way, if you see that little circle thing on the top
I was
right,
going to ask, what's
that's
Excel?
yeah, that's
Is it a
nothing. That's
breakpoint for?
it's yeah, it's a breakpoint for screens that I forgot to remove it and I pushed to production, so it's there. It's not supposed to be there. I
It's
need to
funny how
put it under.
Excel was immediately like, "Ah, that's a tailwind breakpoint."
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I have this little widget thing that I created. I actually saw it somewhere. Someone had something similar on a blog post, and so I created my own using Tailwind, and then it's pretty handy. It's pretty useful when you're developing and you need to know where you're at, resizing the screen and stuff, and it helps you figure out code and debugging and that kind of thing. So I need to put it under a flag so it doesn't show up in production. I didn't do that, so it's just there. So ignore that one. So I don't know if there's anything else actually that made it to production that's new. Actually, let me try something real quick. Let me share a screen and then let me know what you see because I don't know if I made that into if that made it into production. See, where are my screens here? Trying to find something. Okay, here, some code. Did it show up as a larger
Full
screen
big one,
or
and
as
I've
a?
been moved to the corner. Yeah, very nice.
Okay.
Yeah,
So you can see that, but you can't see me, right?
I can see you as well,
Oh, you can
underneath
see
me
me.
in the
Okay.
corner. Yep,
So it's both of us in the corner and then the screen. Yeah. So
nice.
okay, so that made it into production. Okay.
Very nice.
So I'm working on that. So that way everyone can still see each other
Hmm.
while sharing the screen, and the screen is more visible because
Hmm.
it becomes larger, as opposed to before, where if you shared a screen, it was a little tiny window, just like another participant.
Right, and you could
Um,
either full screen it or not, right? So you could either
yeah,
see the full picture or like,
or not.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So you can choose to do that.
Nice.
So
So this also, as you mentioned, this records the original stream of both the screen you're sharing and your video as well, right?
it does in the cloud. It does
Ah, okay,
record
right.
everything that's added into the room,
Hmm.
including the screen share, gets recorded in the cloud.
Okay,
Now, in terms of local recording, at the moment, it's not recording the screen
right,
because it's recording the participants' video cams.
right, right, right.
So I would have to add an additional track that records the screen
I'm with you.
at
Yeah.
that point. So
Hmm.
and I think we might have talked about that. So I
Yes,
I
we did.
would
Yeah,
I would add that in the future.
that's right. Yeah, I remember talking
Yeah,
about that now. Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
makes sense. You did.
So right now, what I'm working on is refining that a little bit. You might have noticed that, I don't know in your case, but in my case, the screen's kind of shifted.
It does a
So
little bit of a flicker when it moves it. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, but also the position.
yeah. Right.
So my screen used to be on the left, and now after turning off screen sharing, I'm on the right, and
All
you're on the
right. No,
left.
no, that's the same.
Okay, so it changed for me.
Okay.
So I'm working on handling the screen share functionality a little better now that I got some of it going. It kind of so basically now I'm working on better handling of the layout when screen
Mm.
sharing is on and when it comes off, and the screens should stay in the same position and not shift. So basically your own screen should always be on the top left
Right.
and
Okay.
everyone else should be
Off
after.
that. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and so another thing that I am working on is changing the number of total participants supported
I remember you
from
mentioning that.
4
Yeah.
to 6.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's going to be 6. But with that comes the challenge of layout. So because now I have to support more screens and they have to fit and they have to all resize properly. So I'm refining that a little bit. I think some of that made it into production when I did the screen share resizing,
Mm-hmm.
but it needs to be polished a little more.
Yeah.
And now that I'm supporting 6 participants total, I'm working on that. So that'll be the next update.
Very nice.
And let's see, what else did I push? Oh, the auto recording, like you saw it now, it starts recording automatically. And oh, the other nice little features I'm working on are status updates on the screen so that you can see who's muted, whose camera is turned off,
Cool.
and who's recording locally and who's
Yeah.
not. So you'll see little
Nice.
icons right below your name where you can see statuses basically.
This is looking really good. It's all
Thanks.
really coming together. You definitely need customers now.
Yeah, right.
You're ready. You're ready. I don't like. There's no excuse now.
I know it's getting there.
No, seriously, this is. I mean, I think you're in the territory of, like, this is beyond that MVP level of being able to, have meaningful users. All of these are just, very
Mhm.
nice improvements. But yeah, I think you're way beyond that point now of it being like, pre-production.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. I'm trying to trick my brain into thinking that way
Yeah,
because
I mean,
for me,
it's tricky.
it's like, oh, I'm still, in very much beta
Yep.
MVP. It's still
Mhm.
not ready. In my mind goes there.
Of course,
Like,
yeah,
oh,
yeah.
it's not ready, and
Mhm. No, I mean, I'm in
but
exactly the same point now. So I'm definitely. So my goal was to get some people on board last week, and I
mhm.
didn't. Especially
Okay,
since for the weekend was, I knew that I was had to leave on Friday afternoon. So I'm like, okay, this is probably not the best time to bye. Have
to do
fun.
that, yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So I'm like, all right. And then so I was looking at it fresh, Sunday night when we got back, and I'm like, okay, what do I absolutely need to finish in order to get it out. And then suddenly you're like, oh, I really need that, and I need this, and I need to. And I'm like, hold on, this is not the point, right? This is that they know that it's pre-release, they know that it's early access, beta, whatever you want to call it, and
yeah,
they are understanding um, people. So I'm like, but I really just need to add these things before it's suitable, and it's so yeah. I'm going through that very much right now, and
yeah,
so there's no excuse really I can think of now to not give them access like tomorrow or Friday. So I'm kind of, I've reached that point where I'm really running out of excuses. I mean, as you know, there's a million things
yeah,
which I'm like, this is completely unsuitable. This is nowhere near finished. That this isn't ready. It really needs to do these things. But I'm reaching the point now where I'm like, hold on, that could go on forever, and I really just need to accept that and let people
yeah,
try. And
S- yeah, yeah. You should
it
definitely.
should. It's the hardest. It is literally. I think is probably the hardest point of this entire process is just like getting over that hurdle, right?
Yep.
Like of course there's ongoing improvements. Starting the thing it's not difficult. You just start writing code, right? Once you find the thing you're looking for, talking to potential customers is not that difficult because people seem to be interested and want to try it out.
Yeah.
It's literally that point of going, all right, there you go.
Yeah.
Absolutely the hardest part of this process.
Yeah. As one of the last person that I onboarded, actually, he made a nice comment about it, and he said, wow. He's like, it looks so complete. It looks so polished already. Like it's nowhere. When I launched my product, he's like, it didn't look anywhere near what
I'm
this
telling
looks
you, it
like
looks
now.
looks fantastic. It looks really good.
And oh, thank you. And then he's like, yeah, just let me know as soon as you're ready. He's like, I'll be your first customer. And I'm like, oh wow, thank you. But yeah, in my mind, I'm thinking, it's just, yeah, it's not ready yet.
No,
But
every single day I'm going through this, and it's like I can't, but it doesn't do this. And then I
yeah.
look at some other similar products that are well, not even similar, but vaguely related, and I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
they only do like half of what mine does, and I'm still like, no, it's not ready, it's not ready. And it's like people seem to
Yeah,
be using theirs and paying for it, so okay, what am I doing here?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so let's see what else. So I'm working on those statuses. That'll be in pretty soon. I'm pretty much done with that. And also hoping to also include one more change to the next deployment is remote controlled recording in
Cool.
the sense that
Hmm.
but I want to make it a flag driven feature
Right.
so that if you choose to use it that way, the record button won't be available to other participants.
Okay. Only to
Only
the
only
the
the,
the controller, right? Right.
Yes, only to the host who
Mm.
controls everything. And so when they click record, it automatically starts recording for everyone in the session. And so I pretty much got that working. I still need to tie a few loose ends, but it's pretty much working where, I can do that. Just
The
pretty much.
biggest, yeah, as you said, these are all nice to haves, but not, yeah, you say not essentials. But is there anything that you need to do that will have a fundamental change to the way somebody uses it and not an incremental improvement? Like, for example, so one of the things that I desperately wanted to get into mine before I let anybody on it was, so you basically have like, there's, people do check-ins, people respond, comment, whatever. I wanted to be
Mhm.
able to show like the latest activity, kind of like an activity feed on your check-ins. So like somebody's
Okay.
commented, view it. And so in order to support that, I needed to make some database changes to make sure that was populated. So the feature is simple right now, but it's there. And even there's things that aren't exposed but are being recorded and logged in the database. So I desperately wanted to get that in before I like started to let people on, even though the feature isn't finished, that the changes needed to be in there to be able to track it. So is there anything like that that's effectively need to be done, like underlying architecture wise, or is it like literally just features that are stacking up now?
Well, hmm, in terms of architecture, it's more in the infrastructure
Right.
layer
Mm-hmm.
that I need to make some improvements. Like I
Like,
might
so
have,
you've got the managing of files that have been like temporary files, where stuff's saved and cleaned up and all the rest. So it feels to me like that's probably the bigger barrier to you onboarding 20 customers than having a feature that does something for them, right?
yes, you're right. You're right about that because yes, these are features that came about from the feedback that I got,
Mm.
with onboarding some of the people, and so I'm trying to push those because they're
Sure.
really really nice features that they pointed out that would be really useful to them.
Right.
So, but yeah, they're not must-haves at this point.
Mm.
But in terms of changes that are preventing me from opening this up
Mm-hmm.
to more people, I would say it's more infrastructure changes that I
Mm.
need to apply. Bring in a load balancer and have at least two servers behind a load
Right.
balancer for redundancy, and little improvements to maybe caching and more redundancy in at the database level as well. Right now I just have
Right.
one database. There's no replication.
Mm-hmm.
There's none of that. So I need to make that stronger
Yeah.
before I can feel comfortable
Mm-hmm.
bringing in more people. So that would I think that would be it in terms of road blocking,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. Yeah.
things.
Right. Right.
But in terms of features, I think you're right. It's pretty much ready, and these other things are more just enhancements.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that if I was in your shoes, that would probably be my priority list, like the order in terms of like get those fundamental changes in. Then there's nothing effectively stopping you saying, okay, like, and I can onboard 10 extra people, or I can, like start to
Right.
work through whoever wants to go on it. Of course, then you actually have to build them. So that would be my
Yeah.
take.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. Yeah. No. Then thanks for pointing that out. That's yeah.
Well, I mean,
No, I
again,
appreciate that.
it's easy for me to say that. It's much
I
easier
totally
to
appreciate that.
it's much easier to critique somebody else than it is yourself, right?
Right. Right. No, but that's totally true.
Yeah.
And no, I really appreciate it because yeah. And I think I need to really buckle down and work towards that and make those
Mm.
changes instead, and kind of postpone these other enhancements for later.
That would
Yeah.
definitely. But the thing is about them as well. I mean, I went through something similar, a few weeks ago when I set up all the AWS stuff. And again, I was similar to you. I was running on, mini stuff like the free database layer, and like all the freebies to just during development work. And I'm like, okay, like if I let somebody
Mm.
on, I can't do this. So it's ripping off the Band-Aid. It's just like I've got to go through, a Saturday of setting up infrastructure and doing that. So I did that, and again, I made some changes to the deployments, the database, all of the DNS stuff and everything. So now that's set up how I want it to, and now it's like, oh, I've done that. I can just deploy, and I can. It does remove one barrier that is. It always feels like, but I can't do that because of these things. And yes, I'm just trying to work through all of those
Yeah.
mentally. But what's to stop me just giving
Yeah.
out a code? So
Removing those excuses,
yeah,
so to speak.
literally, it
Right.
really is.
Yeah.
It's just working through those in your mind, crossing them off one by one. So I'm going to get to the
Yeah.
point where I'm like,
Yeah.
I've got no excuses anymore, which is, yeah. As I said, that's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not an easy thing to accept, but I mean,
Yep.
it's
Yep.
exciting but terrifying.
Yeah.
I say it's the hardest and the most. I think it's we're all terrified of external input, right? We need
Yep.
it, but it's
It's
terrifying.
it's hard to get over that. But yeah, I think in terms of changes, I think that's it for now. That's what I have. That's what I'm working on. Yeah. How about you? What about that plan?
Yeah, so again, I did a whole once I'd got those. So I wanted to get this like activity tracking and things in just to make that feasible, because again, I'd hacked in a very early way, just hitting the database just for like manually, like the brute force way of calculating that, and it's like that isn't going to scale. It's fine
Yeah.
just to see how it looks and to see how it feels, and for me to understand what I need to show, and then it's like, okay, I need to actually make this something that will work, performance wise long term. So I did those changes last week, and
Nice.
now that's in. Yeah, it's just a case of like, okay, I started to run through it as a new user, and came up with another list of 20 things that are like, okay, I need to address those. So there's most of those are now addressed. There's the biggest thing, which is not code related, but is very. I'm trying to figure out what to do about it. Is there's as far as the onboarding process goes, it's pretty straightforward. It's just as you sign up, you can add team members if you want, or add them later, and then it says, well, you haven't made any plans. Click here to make some plans, and it's literally that explaining that there's a little bit of text above each one saying what you should do, but it's the fact that I need like some. I never really liked that whole thing with the like the tooltip thing that moves around and says you should do this and this does that, and it's like just go away.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I almost feel like I kind of need something like that now. So the idea is you can fill in your to-do list and then you can literally check them off. Looking at it fresh as a first user, it's not obvious that you can click the empty check mark to make it checked, to move it, to make it done. So the moving things around on the page doesn't feel obvious. And again, it's something that I've been too close to be able to see it. And I think just going through the first user, the fresh user experience, it doesn't feel obvious to me. So I'm trying to figure out whether I should do some kind of tooltip thing that hovers over it and says you can do this and then click that, or whether I should do like a video or some text description. And I don't feel I have a clear answer there. And so regarding the onboarding thing, so I've got like 3 people, like absolutely, I know I'm going to use these people first. And I know one of them is like, just send me the email, I'll figure it out. Like, I don't need to walk through it. Just send me the email and, I'll figure it out. And I'm like, so I it would be easier just to talk them through it, but they're like, no, just let me figure it out. And I'm like, okay, so how do I make it so that it's obvious to them without them coming back to me and saying, well, what do I do? Because I really don't want that. So I don't know. If you have any suggestions, I'm all ears.
Oh man. Okay. Let's see. So they
The
just
main
want to do it on their own, basically.
right, the main 3 ways I'm considering are literally doing like a mini in the corner video, which says like, how to use the planning page in a, it could be a literally 20-second video that could probably cover it all. Just embed it in the corner, close it to make it go away, or like a tooltip type thing, or have more of a banner that says, kind of an instructional banner that you can just dismiss entirely. So those are the three
Mhm.
things that I'm considering, and I maybe do all three. I don't know.
Well, I think you should not do all three because
No,
that would,
that would
take
just be
longer.
no.
So okay. So just do one of those. And I would think if you do the video, if you go the video route, do you have a good place in your UI where you can place that? Would it
The
mess with your UI?
bottom right of the screen, if they're looking at on desktop, on mobile, then all bets are off. On desktop, the bottom right of the corner is kind of unused. There's a big blank space in the bottom right, so that is a perfect spot to put an eighth size video that's just like, click here and
The
I'll
right
explain how to use this page. So that's one of
the
the
right
reasons the
explainer.
video is kind of tempting, because it's like it would also make a use for that blank space. It gives
Yeah.
it something to do, kind of
Yeah, I
balances
think
the page out on the first view.
I think you should go with the video route because it's a picture is worth 1,000 words, and a video is like even more. So, and if you just, it would be relatively simple to create, right? It's
Yeah.
just a
Oh,
screencast
completely.
with,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
the steps, and
I'll put
yeah, and
built-in
that's something that
captions
you
on it
can.
and stuff as well, just so it's clear. Yeah.
And that's something that you can that would be useful going forward. It's not just for this one person, or it's not just for this phase of the product, but you could just make it a permanent feature of the product, having these little screencast explainers built baked into the product. The only challenge with that is that if the product changes later on, then you kind of have to re-record the screencast because the UI changes, or the way the feature works changes.
Yeah.
But I think it's the clearest, most straight way to explain and show
I, that was
someone how it works.
kind of, yeah. I was kind of I was hoping you'd say that, simply because it feels to me like the most personal version, right? It's, again, I think
Yeah,
I've said before, a big part of one of the things I want to do with this is make it a more like kind of homely, personal product, not just a corporation. So that
yeah,
kind of plays to that advantage, right? It's me explaining how to use it, and if you have any feedback, then like and subscribe. So
exactly.
it's, and it also, yeah, as you said, show is better than tell, right? So
Yeah,
it's, and if they really aren't interested, then just dismiss it and it's gone, and they
yeah,
can figure it out.
yeah,
But
yeah. I think that's the
it's,
way to go.
and I was kind of, as I said, I don't really like those hover boxes that move around. I'm just like, go away. I'm like, let me figure this out. So I know that if it
Yeah,
creates that, and a video, I'm like, I don't care about if it's there. I can watch it. If I don't want to watch it, I don't have to. So it feels less intrusive, even though it takes up more screen real estate. It's louder potentially.
yeah,
So yeah, I guess even though it feels heavier way of doing it, it feels to me like it might be the right way. So I'm glad you
yeah.
confirmed
And
that
it's
opinion.
Yeah, I feel the same way about those hover boxes or whatever that move around.
Right.
The UI, I don't really like them, and it's even worse when they don't give you a way
The
out,
way out, right?
where
Exactly. You're like,
it's
just
you
go
have to
away.
go to each one of them. You have to keep going. You can't
Yeah.
bail out of those. So yeah,
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan of those either.
Yeah. I
Um,
can understand why. I mean, there's a lot of, it's interesting going through this process. It's a long time since I launched my own product. As I said, I've done it before, but it was, a long time ago. So there's a lot of things now in the current state of web applications that I felt more like, I don't, that I hate this trend. I don't like what certain new aspects, whether it's almost like the flat humans in terms of landing page stuff, whether it's these hover states things, all this kind of stuff. And it's funny going through the process of now having to do all of these things myself. So many of them, I now know why they made those decisions, and I'm not saying I like them either, but you almost end up at the same endpoint, right? You're like, well, I don't want to put photos on my page because it's very like people have different reactions to different things, and you have to there's a lot more to consider if you go in the photo route, right? And then you're
Yeah.
like, yeah, but I don't want to do like cartoons feels a little not right yet until I have more confidence in my branding and all the rest. So, and you almost end up at this point where you're like, well, it's a purple flat picture of a humanish kind of thing. That'll do. And it's like, I've fallen into the same trap as everybody else. And the same
Yeah.
thing with these hover things as well. It's like, I don't want to be heavy-handed. I don't want text on the screen, but I need to tell them that they should do this. How do I do that? Well, if I just did that, and I'm like, no, what am I doing? So yeah, I'm kind of it's revealing,
Yeah.
but I also don't want to fall into the same trap as everybody else. Not trap. I don't want to default to what everybody else is doing without understanding why I'm doing it. Right.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. That's exactly it. But yeah, dude, I think if you go the screencast route, that would help.
And I can always change it, right? I can always A/B test these things in the future. But for this initial pass, it feels like an obvious route, right? Well, if you don't want to spend half an hour on a call with me, watch this video instead.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's only 20 seconds long, and it'll tell you what you need to know. So it feels like a nice way of doing it to me. So
Yeah.
thank you for the
Yeah,
confirmation,
definitely.
affirmation of
Yeah.
my feelings.
Yeah, there's a part of FusionCast where I need to do something similar to that because of the nature of the problem, which is when you first go into a FusionCast URL and you're trying to connect or whatever, or basically any part of the app where it needs access to the camera and the microphone, the browser has to allow the app access to those
Of course, yeah.
devices,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So, and then for privacy reasons, the user has to sort of see that and allow access. And so, but if the user selects decline, or I mean, if they select block to
Mm.
block access, right? At some point, if they select to block, it goes into a mode where it won't show you that anymore.
Of course, yeah,
It'll
yeah.
just
You can't re-get it, right?
like you can't re-get it. So like the browser is already blocking it and
Mm.
that's it.
Yeah,
And so you can't see that prompt anymore.
yeah.
But the way I did it with FusionCast, it detects the fact that it's gotten into that mode,
Oh, okay,
and it
cool.
and it
Mm.
brings up a dialog box that says your browser is blocking. Like there's nothing I can do about
Mm.
it. Basically, you need to
Yeah,
unblock it. And so the way to unblock that is different for different browsers.
of course.
So right
You have
now
to
I
go into
just have
settings,
a
right,
like a
and change it, right?
yeah, but there's a way to access it on the bar, on the address
Okay.
bar, that little icon
Mhm,
right next to it. You can
mhm.
click on that. But if you've blocked it completely, then in some browsers that doesn't even work. You have to go to a little icon that's to the right of the address bar
Right.
where it shows like a little camera or
Yeah, yeah.
whatever, or a little microphone, and then you have to go in there.
Right.
So it depends on the browser, and it might even depend on the platform. I need to do more
Mm,
research on that. But right now, I just have a sort of a temporary,
mm.
instructions at that
Yeah, yeah,
point
yeah.
telling people how to get out of that mode.
That's not a blocker for launch. You know that. You can't use that as an excuse.
Yeah, no, 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 not at all. You're right. You're right. Um, no, no, I'm not gonna hold back because of that. But I that's an area where a screencast would be, perfect to just show the person
Completely.
based on the
Yeah,
browser they're
which browser?
using.
Yeah, it's probably easier for
Yeah,
you to make as well, right? Because trying to
yeah,
explain where to click is a nightmare. One of the
yeah,
reasons that this is quite a nice solution for mine as well, because it's like go to here and click here, so
yeah,
it's easier.
yeah, much better.
Nice one.
So, yeah. What else? What else do you
Well,
have? What else have you been
um,
working on?
again, lots of small things, but say the big thing is just like what I've got to get this out. So it's
Yeah,
anything that's stopping me from giving a link to somebody, making sure all of the email invitations are working for. So when you invite teammates to it, making sure their sign up process is fine. Which again is not something I hit very often because it's I don't do that right.
yeah,
And so that's one of the parts which I'm like, okay, I tried it again. I'm like, I need to look at this, just improve it a little bit. So there's And again, setting up, I had to set up and move to AWS email service from mine. I had to get approved by them. So you have to explain to them why you're going to send lots of emails. Oh, hopefully lots of emails. So all of those things take time, right? And it's,
Yeah.
I say, those are legitimate blockers. It's like, well, I don't want to be on a temporary free email service that doesn't work outside of my own domains. So I need to make that happen. And so those things are all done now. So yeah, it's literally when I run out of excuses in terms of application development. So
Nice.
yeah, so I'm literally just going through and trying to make sure all of the first run stuff is working, which is how I hit this, because everything else as far as daily use, it's all fine. Of course, there's a million things which I don't like about it and want to improve, but none of them are good enough excuses to not release.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, it's just finishing
So
off this onboarding stuff really now is the thing which I want to get finished. So that's my
okay.
plan for this, yeah, tonight and tomorrow night is okay. That's it.
So
Those are good enough.
so any onboarding this week? Any plans to onboard?
Well, hopefully, if I can get this, well, by making a video, then I've got zero excuse because I don't have to schedule anything, right?
Yeah.
So if I do that, then yeah, I'm going to send out a couple to the people that I know don't want to schedule an interview, so I can
Yeah.
definitely get them on board. And if it seems okay with them, I might even feel brave enough to send out to a few others that I wasn't going to onboard yet, just because it's like, well, in for a penny, in for a pound, right?
Yeah.
Throw
Yeah.
them all in.
Well, I
So
say you do it as long as you don't have any breaking features
I
anywhere.
that's that
Just
part
do
of,
it.
yeah. I mean, one of the nice things about this, because I've avoided all real external dependencies, even to the point of like I didn't allow photo uploading. So the obvious one is you want a photo for your avatar, but I
Yeah.
even punted on that for now, just because I'm like I want no external uploading is always a pain, and yeah,
Yeah.
yours is entirely uploading, which is like yeah crazy. So I
Yeah.
even punted on that. I'll do that later. There's nothing that
Yeah.
doesn't stop you from using it. It doesn't stop. So I use the email address now to generate a hex CSS color, like a pastel
Okay.
color based on the email address. So everybody gets a unique color that stays with them, but you can't upload your own photo
Yeah.
yet. And I'm like, just like, that can wait. That's not blocking. So yeah, one of the nice things about this is there's no external APIs that it hits. There's no, apart from the obvious like email and things.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's quite nice. And so there's nothing breaking. Everything works. It's literally just like, is it clear what they need to do? Is there nothing that they're going the obvious first things they're going to do? They all are obvious, right? Yeah, as I said, it's getting to the point where I'm like, I can't delay this any longer now. If
All
nothing else,
right.
because my wife keeps asking me every day, like, have you got anybody yet? Yeah, I just wanted to
When are
finish
you
this
gonna
thing.
launch? When are you gonna launch?
Exactly. So I'm like,
Yeah.
if nothing else, then I've got to, say yes to that. Like, it's done.
Yeah.
so,
All
so
right. Well,
yeah,
good luck with that.
thank you. So that's the plan for
Yeah.
this week anyway. So that's
Right
hopefully
on.
fingers crossed. Cool. Nice one.
Nice. All right. I think
We wrap it up,
if
and
you don't have anything else, we can wrap it up here.